What's up everybody, I'm Derek, this is Rocking eForge, and today I'm going to be forging a set of Campfire tongs. So let's get rocking. Alright, so this project is going to use two different pieces of steel. One being a piece of 1/4 by 1/2 inch flat stock, and a piece of 1/2 inch square stock, both of which are going to be about 3 feet long. You can go shorter, you can go longer, but that's what I'm starting with. And what I'm going to do with that 1/4 by 1/2 is forge that into kind of a one-sided taper. And I'm trying to make kind of a claw, and I'm going to draw that out about 2 inches. All right, yeah, that's about 2 inches. And we're actually just gonna leave this sit and move on to the other piece of steel, the 1/2 inch square. And I'm gonna try to forge that same one-sided taper on the tip of this bar as I did on the 1/4 by 1/2. Gonna go a little farther. Okay, so now that I've got this pretty close to about the same kind of single-sided taper, I'm going to cool off the 1/2 inch square piece, and I'm gonna cut a channel using my bandsaw to try to get as accurate as possible down the middle of this bar, up to about, let's say, a foot. I'm gonna start with about a foot to split that 1/2 inch into 2 1/4 inch pieces, so to speak. All right, and I've got this piece of 1/2 inch square bar sort of clamped down to the table of my little bandsaw so that I can take this piece of 1/2 inch square, run it along the other piece, acting as a fence so that I can get a pretty accurate 1/4 inch cut all the way through this piece up to that foot mark. All right, I lied, it's not square. I've actually got an angle going toward this side of the cut. So I'm just gonna have to eyeball it and mark out a line on here, which is probably what I'm going to do anyway. The next thing I'm gonna do here is lock this in the vise right about the point where that split ends. I'm gonna take my chisel, and I've cooled off the end to make sure that I can touch this. Okay. And I'm just gonna spread this apart and then use my gloves to widen those. And then I'm gonna take my chisel and chisel down into that split, or into that cut, rather. That way I can clean up the inside of this cut, and then I can forge on both of these and kind of even everything out from that kind of uneven cut that I got. And then I'm going to slowly bring this back to somewhat in line. But I need to be able to fit both of these in the forge so that I can work on this area up here, because I'm gonna bring this back together now that I've kind of worked the claws out, so to speak, in order to fit this piece together. What we're gonna actually do is create a pivot point where these two pieces rivet together and then open and shut around a small log as you're trying to move it in and out of the fire or reposition it or what have you. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is try to wedge this into my post vise, and I need 3 hands here. Try to use the vice jaws here to straighten this stuff out. Just easier said than done when you don't have a partner or somebody to help you out. But that worked out for the first, I don't know, 6 inches or so of that. And that's really the important portion that I want to keep straight. All right, so now that I've got the basic shape of the claws worked out, I'm going to spin around and start working on the handle. And I've got a plan to turn this into a fishtail scrolled handle that kind of curls down around the backside. So I'm just going to kind of taper this toward that end and try to spread it this direction using the rounding side of my rounding hammer. All right, so I've got that worked out to about 8 inches, just kind of tapering from that what's going to be fishtail scroll up to back to the parent stock width and thickness. And I'm going to knock down these corners. Since this is going to be a handle, I'd like it to be a little, softer on the hand, so to speak. And then we'll get to the actual scrolling and shaping of the handle on this side and move on to the other one. All right, so now I got to think through which side I'm going to do the scroll and curve the handle. So this face, because this is curving this direction, this face is going to be the inside of the claw once they're shaped, which means when I curve the handle, I want the handle to go to the outside, which means I need to scroll this to the inside. And I'm just going to do a very light scroll. I want it to kind of just be an S shape here. But I need to make sure that I'm scrolling it in the right direction and then bending the handle in the right direction as well. And I'm going to briefly quench that kind of scroll that I did so that I can hammer on it without messing it up. And then I'm looking to just kind of bend this It does want to twist on me a little bit, so I've got to move back and forth between the flat face and the anvil and the horn to refine this to the shape that I want. I like that. Now the other side is going to be a little bit of a different story because this is flat stock and this is square stock. So I can't do exactly the same thing on here. Oh, wait. I did a dumb. So ignore what I said earlier. I want the handle to go to the outside, which means I need to scroll this to the inside. I need to go the opposite direction. It's pivoting. I've just stuck that right in the middle. Here I thought I was being real smart, and I did it backwards. Just know that it actually needs to go toward the inside of the claw because it is pivoting. The easy answer actually is to just change the claw. I'm gonna go ahead and just forge that forward, and we'll be back to good. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other handle, but it's going to be a bit different because this is square stock versus the flat stock I was using. So I got to control the spread a lot more and probably shorten this down a little bit because it's going to end up lengthening out. All right, so this actually is going to see a lot less spreading because this is already square up here, so I just want it to kind of blend in. So the scroll goes toward the curved portion, handle bends toward the flat portion here. Should have done this before bending the handle, by the way. One side's going to be longer than the other. That's okay. I can correct that by just cutting off a little bit down here at the tip and reforging that, because the handles are pretty well the same size, other than obviously the difference in thickness. And that's how it's going to look when they go together. And the next step is going to be shaping this transition point so that these two pieces of steel can meet up down the center line and then flare out when the claws need to. All right, and before I get too far into this, I'm gonna mark on the flat bar side the point that I need to bend from, so that the bend on both is about the same. So I'm gonna lay the point where I want to bend off toward me, off of the horn itself. I'm going to use the rounding side of my rounding hammer to hammer down lightly in that area that I want the bend to be. And that should be plenty. Let's check this. So yeah, not too bad. I'm going to do the same thing with the other side, and then we'll get to actually drilling the hole and riveting, and then shaping the claws. I gotta find my little dot here, set that just a little ways off, and do that the wrong direction. Yeah. That should be pretty good, to be honest. That fit up, how tight that is already, is going to be great for when I go to drill this. I'm just going to wedge those two things together in that little position, get everything kind of ironed out in the right spot that I want, and then drill through the center of that so that we can drop a rivet in there and call it good. All right, so now that I've got this kind of pseudo wedged together and lined up, I'm just going to put a center punch mark at the point where I'm going to rivet this together, and then unalign everything that I just did. All right, nope. There we go. So now I'm gonna go head to the drill press, and we're gonna get this thing drilled through and riveted together. All right, so now I'm gonna just drop that rivet right in there, roll that, heat everything up, roll that over, and we should be good to go. So we're nice and hot. Take this and roll this right into the little tray that I forged on a few videos back. And first thing I'm gonna do is just flatten that out a little bit, which should lock everything together, make sure it's a little more mobile. Then I'm gonna bring in my rivet header. And I don't know if I have enough rivet there to really head all the way down. I'm gonna flatten that down a little more. Now, while it's still hot, I can take a chance to just kind of refine where these meet up together. And then just loosen up where that rivet point is so that everything can kind of move. All right, so next we're going to shape the claws, and I want to start by kind of adding a little bit of a curve to them. Now that it's all riveted together, it gets a little more complicated, and you could absolutely shape these before you rivet them together. I did this on purpose, just strictly because I wanted to get them as close to even as possible with everything all riveted together. It's hard to kind of visualize that until, or pre-rivet, until you actually do it. to spread those out so that the center claw ends up in the center. All right, so I've got those overlapped. Obviously, horizontally it needs a little work, but I've got to the point where the claws overlap, and now we got to work on getting the horizontal shape all good. The plan is to spread out these two. One, make sure that the center claw is straight, and then come in and actually spread these claws out a little bit so that you get 3 points of contact. Actually, I've got a pair that I got at a yard sale to demonstrate. 3 points of contact on the, what am I doing? I literally have a piece of wood over here. On a piece of wood, and gives you, you know, an actual grip and stability instead of having it just wobble back and forth between two. This is pretty well done. I guess I need the touch mark and then wire wheel the crap out of it. Then I'm going to put a nice layer of beeswax to kind of seal everything up, darken the steel, and prevent rust. All right, so that is going to do it for this project. I'm pretty excited to, you know, start getting into camping season and using this thing for actually building some campfires, or rearranging logs in some campfires, I guess, so to speak. But if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, leave a comment, hit subscribe, or ring that notification bell. If you want to support me in the channel further, please consider becoming an honorary striker on my Patreon. That link is in the description below the video. Or please consider becoming a member on my YouTube channel. And as always, keep on rocking.